Press the button, my friend.
The Out of Bounds Show is live from the Whiskey 61 Lounge in the Bank Plus studio.
Check it out.
All right, good morning. Welcome in. We are the Out of Bounds Show. Your SEC Insider Hit this morning is brought to you by Mack Hike in Flowood, Ram Trucks, Jeep Grand Cherokees, and Jeep Wranglers, all at MackHikeFlowwood.com, the number one selection of pre-owned SUVs and trucks. They've got the inventory. A lot of people don't. MackHikeFlowwood.com for your next SUV or truck. Out of Bounds, 105.9 The Zone, ESPN WRKS. We're streaming live on the Out of Bounds radio app. You can watch the show right now on YouTube. Search Out of Bounds Sports. We welcome in Michael Katz, Ole Miss Insider, DJournal.com. Katz, was that your first trip to New Orleans?
It was everything I thought it would be and more.
Oh man, what a city. What an eclectic city and a cool place. I was there, I guess, a few days before all y'all got down there. All right, what jumped out at you? I mean, was there a meal? Was there some food? Was there a spot that you hit that you loved? Tell me what happened.
The food, man. The food was. You hear stories about po' boys and all that stuff, and I'm a big Food Network guy myself. So like I guess I've been like mentally prepared for New Orleans for like a decade. Just what I would be getting, and I walked in and got an oyster and shrimp po' boy, and it was a life-changing experience. I kind of went out of body there for a couple minutes, and came back, and then it's a cool city because I guess I didn't realize how walkable it is. You can just kind of go from one corner to the next and just see a whole bunch of stuff that I living in Wyoming for a couple years, didn't see that kind of stuff for a while, so it's nice to kind of it had a little bit of like Venice Beach, Los Angeles vibes, but way cooler.
All right, so I don't know how much we want to recap the game. It is what it is. Bowl games are weird and funky. You lose the best player you got. What was your sense after the game? Like, very disappointed, or tell me what the room was like.
It's interesting because you listen to Chance Campbell and Snoop Connor and Lane, and obviously they wanted to win that game, but I don't know how disappointed or upset you can be when you lose your field general in the first quarter. And I think really sort of any upset, frustration, obviously losing the game is tough, especially in a game that they really stayed in it for a long time given the circumstances. I think all anybody could really think about was Matt and just him going down and how much he's kind of given to the program and willing to play in that last game when we've seen all of these opt-outs, and to have it end like that, I think was just really disappointing for everybody. So, there were a couple of moments with Luke Altmaier where, things weren't looking great, and then he did some really nice things. And so, the defense played really, really well for the most part. You couldn't really ask much more from them, given, the kind of positions they were put in. And so, yeah, I mean, I think there is a feeling that, they maybe still could have won, but I think really the focus was just kind of on Matt and just how, how brutal it is. You want, I think everybody on the team wanted that storybook ending for a guy who's really kind of given everything he had, and to have it go like that. I think that's where a big part of the disappointment really kind of came from.
Yeah, special player. Michael Katz, Ole Miss Insider on the Bell's Two-Hearted L guest line. Is Durkin to A&M done?
I keep looking, and I keep, I'm going to Texags and all that stuff. Let's be honest, if it comes down to money, Texas A&M's going to win pretty much any fight out there. Lane wasn't super, he with Wilson Love, he gave a pretty defined answer that, Wilson Love was gone to Oregon. He acknowledged that Charlie Weiss Jr. was coming to Ole Miss. With Durkin, it was a little more of a, I wouldn't be surprised if some people get hired from, the general sort of answer. But I would not be shocked if that happened, just because let's be honest, he did a really nice job with the defense that was very, very bad last year. And then he and Partridge, I don't know how you want to define their roles and who does what, but the combination did quite a nice job this year.
Do you think that well, who knows? He could promote from within, Chris Partridge, or he could go out and tap somebody, right? If he does lose DJ Durkin.
Yeah, I mean, I think the easy answer, just for continuity's sake, is Partridge. But we have seen Lane go, kind of outside the box and either take guys who he has familiarity with, or just kind of go for who is out there who might be a smart move. So, I mean, if I was a betting man, I think just kind of keeping Partridge as the guy would make a lot of sense. But the coaching carousel doesn't always make a lot of sense, as you know.
Boy, a lot of risks there though with Partridge having never called plays. So that will be interesting to see. I mean, every hire has risk. But in the SEC, a guy who's yet to call plays at any level, especially the Power 5 level, that could be a concern. What are you hearing on the QB? Is there disappointment they haven't landed someone yet as far as QB transfer from the portal?
Yeah, I think it's I don't know if frustrating is the term. And I guess the good thing about the transfer portal it's an ever evolving, group of people. Caleb Williams, I can't believe he's in there now. I mean, that's just kind of insane given that he was.
It is.
I mean, he was the talk of college football for a couple months, and now he's
could be going to your alma mater.
He could, yeah. I'm not getting my hopes up, but that would be pretty awesome. But just Spencer Rattler and Dylan Gabriel. The Dylan Gabriel situation is pretty wild too, given that he has the shortest UCLA tenure in history. He's already at Oklahoma. His whole situation is pretty bizarre, but with those guys, those were kind of the big names in there. And I think everybody kind of thought Ole Miss was maybe going to hit on one, and then one went to South Carolina, one to Oklahoma. There are still some names in there, but especially given what we saw in the Sugar Bowl, and Luke really did do an admirable job. But I don't think it's fair to really determine if he's your guy based on what we saw there, because I don't think if you put any 18, 19-year-old into that situation, he was probably going to thrive. And so I think Luka Altmaier could be a great player, down the line, but I think for a team that is looking to not have a huge drop off, you don't want to risk it based on a quarterback you don't know a ton about. And yes, the coaching staff knows a lot more about Luka Altmaier than we do, because we don't see him that often. This is really the first time we've seen him play. But I think there has sort of been an expectation to get one of these transfer portal guys, and there are still some good ones in there. Will Williams and Casey Thompson from Texas. I think Daggy from West Virginia was in there. There are still some guys, and there's still time, but they have kind of struck out on those top guys, and it's kind of becoming apparent that they're going to need to pull the trigger at some point, especially since they didn't get any quarterback in the recruiting class either.
We kind of forget about that the December 15th or whenever it was, they didn't sign one. They still can, like you said. They can both sign one and land one from the portal. But time's kind of running out on the high school QBs in this class. Michael Katz, Ole Miss Insider, djournal.com. His first trip to New Orleans was a success. He said food, beverage, and in the city and everything. So are you surprised coming from the West Coast and you went to Southern Cal, and although they haven't been good in a while, it's a huge brand and program when operating the right way. And when you were younger, they were rolling. Are you surprised at how much Ole Miss or SEC, but Ole Miss fans crave, what y'all do and covering it 24/7? I mean, are you even surprised?
That is truly what it means. There is always wanting more, just in terms of content, and the constant updates on just like the most minute things that I don't necessarily think are a big deal, but you've got people asking about like long snappers and just like crazy stuff that like not necessarily would normally be on my radar, but it's a passionate fan base, and especially when they've kind of gotten back toward where they want to be and where they think they should be, and now it's just I think they just want to stay there and they want to know everything about it, and I think it's really fun because it keeps me on my toes, and it's comforting to know that there's always going to be eyes on stuff that I write. Obviously, more stuff for certain stuff. If you write about John Rice Plumlee, it's always going to have a ton of eyes on there.
Really?
Yesterday, that was one of our most read stories yesterday.
That's incredible. I mean, he hadn't even been a big factor the last 2 years. The whole JRP thing is fascinating to me. I mean, obviously his freshman year, the kid was phenomenal. You weren't here yet, but he was dynamic and playing his ass off in a team that was just trying to figure it out. He and Ely, true freshmen, and so on. And he played, by the way, Katz, because Corral got hurt. I mean, he wasn't going to be and then not basically be irrelevant for the last 2 years, and now head to – what are you hearing? Is it Central Florida, Southern Miss? What's going – basically, when you're a transfer, even when you commit, there's no signing. I mean, people can recruit you until literally you go to class. Katz, I know you know that, which is crazy, right?
Yeah, and so that's that was kind of the interesting thing with Dylan Gabriel, because everybody assumed. I think UCLA even put like a welcome graphic for him a few weeks ago, and yesterday he's like, I'm going to Oklahoma. So it's pretty it is pretty insane how it all kind of works, but it's I don't know, it's kind of John Rice Plumlee he's a great kid. I've loved working with him, and he just sort of has this personality that people just love to see. And of course, him being the local guy and what he did as a freshman on a really bad team, I just think there's always been this like idea that like if you put him on the field, special things are going to happen. And
I
yes,
agree.
That has happened, but it hasn't been as consistent since he's moved positions and whatnot. I'm not surprised that he's leaving. I'm sure he wants to play quarterback and play a more prominent role. And I don't think with the way SEC football is right now, it was going to happen here or probably anywhere in the SEC. I've seen Central Florida. I think I've seen South Alabama in there.
Yeah.
I think one of those Sun Belt-ish level places where he can kind of play quarterback, I think would be good for him.
Oh, I think he could be fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely. And the one reason I thought maybe he wouldn't leave is just because of all the NIL stuff and all the good kind of publicity and connections that he has here. But I think John Rice Plumlee is the kind of guy who wherever he goes, he's probably going to have some pretty good opportunities.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. Thought he should have left last year, but so it's going to be different for you. You walked in covering what we consider a transcendent, one of the top players in the country. I think he's off the board in the first 5 picks, but 10 picks of the NFL draft at worst. I think it's going to be it's going to be fun to watch because you don't know who the next person is. But this guy, because Lane talked about it after the Sugar Bowl. All right. It was your quote. I saw it, your deal, and you did it on Twitter and on D-Journal and on Facebook where you and Parrish are. But just talk about the impact of what Corral did with the program and how much Lane was trying to convey that, I think, to, the college football world and the Ole Miss fan base. Katz?
Yeah, I mean, I know quarterback and head coach are usually pretty intertwined, but I don't know if I've ever seen at the college level quite like Lane Kiffin and Matt Corral. And I think there's just sort of a mutual respect for what each has kind of gone through in terms of not necessarily the straightest path in terms of how they got to Oxford. Lane has his issues, Matt Corral. Not everyone was super hot on him when he was coming out of high school, and even his first, couple years of college, he had some spots where, people weren't sure if he was, the right guy. And I think just over the last couple of years, Matt has really proven that, he's not just the golden arm and all that kind of stuff and the talent that NFL evaluators see, but he's the heartbeat. He's the guy who is quite literally going to leave it all out there, even if it's to his detriment. I'm sure if you ask Matt now, if you ask him, do you regret playing in the game, he would say absolutely not. I think he would make that decision 100 times out of 100. And I think there's just sort of as a coach and as teammates, I don't think you can help but gravitate toward that, just the love he has for what he does. And I think that's what, I think NFL GMs, is he the biggest guy in the world? No. Are there going to be guys with, better measurables? Maybe. But I think you can't help but kind of fall in love with the heart and the grit. Matt Corral's a throwback. That's what I tell people. They don't make them like Matt Corral anymore, just in this sort of era where you see opt-outs. And I understand opting out and all that stuff. But the fact that with Matt, it was never even a conversation. I mean, I asked him literally 10 minutes after the Egg Bowl, and he didn't even hesitate. That he said, "Oh yeah, I'm playing in whatever bowl game we're in." Those kind of guys don't come around anymore, and I think he's just sort of a. You never want to associate a program with one guy, and Ole Miss did become a lot more than Matt Corral this year. With the defense playing the way they did, and all these kind of guys that kind of became bigger names, but. Matt Corral is as big a part of Ole Miss's success last couple of years as anything. And, Lane wasn't afraid to say that, and I think that says a lot.
So who's a bigger loss? Michael Katz, Ole Miss Insider, on the Bell's Two-Hearted Ale guest line. Who's a bigger loss, Jeff Lebby or DJ Durkin?
I would probably say Durkin, and I say that because wherever Lane Kiffin has gone, the offense has usually figured itself out. And I think that, the Charlie Weiss Jr. hire, maybe not the sexiest pick, but it makes sense given their familiarity from Florida Atlantic, and they have some really good offenses there. I think what it comes down to is the offense is going to be molded in however Lane kind of wants to see it. And I think it's, is it going to look different? Yes. Levy did a great job in terms of, pace and all that kind of stuff and bringing that Central Florida system. But, I think Lane probably learned some stuff from Levy, and I think Lane's got a pretty good, sort of, Rolodex of things that he likes to do just from his time as a coordinator. And so, I would imagine the offense is probably still going to be pretty dang good. Defensively, it's hard. And, like you said earlier, if it is Partridge, it's a guy who's never called plays. And Durkin, I know people have a lot of thoughts on him, but he did a really, really, really nice job.
He did.
This year. And, 2 touchdowns less than they did a season ago. I think the whole thought was if the defense could even be average, this was going to be a good team. And this defense was way better than average, especially toward the end of the year.
Oh, look.
And so,
Katz, they were number 17 defensive scoring efficiency in November.
Yeah.
That is ridiculous.
This was the team that gave up like 40 points a game last year.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really an amazing job. And they had their flaws. And, those came out sometimes. But if you're looking at a year-to-year jump, it's pretty remarkable what Durkin and Partridge did. And there's a reason that Durkin is a guy people want.
Sure.
Especially Jimbo Fisher. Jimbo Fisher has been a very successful coach, and for him to want Durkin, it kind of shows just how good a job he did.
So Sam Williams, I mean, we thought he was a good player, but I didn't see him emerging as this unbelievable edge rusher. Finley on the back end was a baller. It's going to be interesting, Katz, to see where Sam Williams is drafted, in late April.
Yeah, I think he's going to be a guy that is I think he's going to be a combine warrior. And I think he's going to run. I mean, I've talked to his junior college coach, and of course, the coach tells me he runs like a 4.4, and you take that with a grain of salt. But I think Sam Williams is going to be a guy who runs really, really fast, especially for someone who's probably going to weigh 265 or whatever he's at now. And he's a dude who's always kind of looked the part, and now he's finally played the part. And he was, do you wish he was Taylor, of course, but that was again a tough situation for everyone. But you don't set the single season, school record for sacks in a season at an SEC program unless you've done some pretty special things. And he's really kind of turned things around, and I think that just sort of his story is going to resonate with NFL draft guys, seeing where a guy came from and where he is now. And the physical talent doesn't hurt. I think he, first round, who knows, but I think he went from a guy who was maybe kind of an afterthought before the season, maybe a later round pick. I think he's a top 2 or 3 round pick for sure. Again, not a betting man, but if I was, I think that'd be the smart money.
Man, I thought he really committed to getting in shape this past year. His body just looked totally different than last year. And Durkin and them did a great job with. I'd love to ask Wilson Love. I know he's already at Oregon, but what did he do differently in those 8 months in the weight room? All right. Yeah, Corral's injury. Do you expect him to be good to go for all the workouts as far as the NFL draft, Katz?
Yeah, I mean, after the game, Lane said the X-ray came up negative, and just sort of, I think it was Chris Lowe from ESPN said it was a sprain, which obviously is not great, and that's going to hurt really, really badly. But it does not sound like it's going to be anything that's going to affect him in the next couple of months. Which, obviously the best case scenario would have been going back into the game. But I guess the second best scenario is him, being okay for the future. It does not sound like it's going to be anything that hinders him going forward.
Good. Did you tell Parrish you're taking a week off soon?
It's actually funny because I actually did yesterday. I'm going home in a couple of weeks for the first time in a few months.
Good for you,
I'm
man.
Going to go. Yeah, I'm going to take a week off. And Parrish has always said, if you need time, go for it. And it kind of hit that wall when I got back. I experienced every season on my way back from New Orleans, and it was at that point I was like, I need a break for a few days. So
yeah, you do.
It's coming.
Good. Yeah, you got a little snow and sleet on the way back from New Orleans to Oxford.
Let me tell you, I'm used to snow. Haven't done the Wyoming thing for a year or two, but I was not expecting when I got back to my house that there was going to be snow on the roof. I couldn't believe it. I was just like, it was 80 degrees, and you're sweating walking outside the hotel in New Orleans. And now it's snowing. Just truly it was all the seasons in about a 5.5 hour drive.
Katz, thanks, bud. We'll talk soon. All right.
Sounds good, man. Appreciate it.
All right, Michael Katz on the Bell's Two-Hearted Ale guest line. All right, guys, it's we got to leave you with this. Got to talk a little food. We mentioned bacon earlier. It is National Spaghetti Day, and shout out to Bravo Italian Restaurant and Bar. My daughter loves. I told Jeff Good this. My daughter loves the spaghetti, and it is fabulous. The red sauce, the meatballs. Oh gosh. The spaghetti at Bravo Italian Restaurant and Bar will hurt your feelings in a good way. In a good way. And pair it with a good beer beverage. But I love spaghetti. Love it. The meatballs, the marinara sauce, depending on what noodles you go with. But the spaghetti at Bravo Italian Restaurant and Bar in Highland Village, one of the best restaurants in the state of Mississippi. Jeff and Dan do a great job. Enjoy National Spaghetti Day. Pair it with the really, really big boy cab or red blend. Bravo Italian Restaurant and Bar. You can get that cab or red blend at Briarwood Wine and Spirits. How about that? We'll see you tomorrow. Hit Apple Podcasts. Search The Out of Bounds Show. Would love for you to subscribe.